Hello, everyone. I'm Dan Kennedy, coming to you from the 11Alive Streaming Center. You know, it's been a busy week across Georgia. Again, let's get you caught up on 11Alive News this week. Life in prison. That is the sentence for a woman convicted of killing two men and then injuring a third in a shooting spree in Midtown Atlanta back in 2022. Raisa Kenye was found guilty but mentally ill on all 14 counts. 11Alive's Gilat Malawad spoke with the family of the victims after that verdict came down.
I think justice was served.
Justice for three families whose loved ones were shot, two of them killed in a 2022 shooting spree in Midtown Atlanta. Raisa Kenye was sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 50 years for the killings of 60-year-old Michael Shinners and 41-year-old Wesley Freeman and the shooting of Michael Horn. Horn initially survived but later died from cancer. His daughter, Allison Page, says his treatment was impacted because of the shooting.
He was a great dad and a great grandfather. And this never should have happened.
The shootings were believed to be targeted at the time, related to a job discrimination lawsuit filed by Kenye. While her attorneys raised insanity as a defense, prosecutors argued she willingly and knowingly murdered and attempted to murder people on a hit list. The jury found Kenye guilty on all 14 counts, but mentally ill.
I definitely would have liked to have heard just guilty, but the jury believes that she is mentally ill. And, you know, as long as she's put away forever, it's really all I care about.
During the sentencing, loved ones of all three victims spoke. Michael Shinner's wife says her husband was quick-witted, lit up every room he entered, and his presence made her feel safe. Telling the court how more than 30 years of marriage shattered in a single moment, saying, "My memories of my dear husband are tainted by his manner of death." Wesley Freeman's wife remembers him as a humble man who carried himself with grace. His grieving mother saying, "Rest in peace, sweet child of mine, until we meet again in heaven." Gilat Malawad, 11Alive News.
A federal judge has ruled that the Justice Department can keep the 2020 election materials seized from Fulton County back in January. The county had asked a judge to order those ballots and records be returned after the FBI raided the Fulton County Elections Office, but the judge rejected that request. 11Alive's Ariana Maniz has this story.
The judge called the seizure unprecedented, but ultimately ruled that Fulton County did not meet the high legal standard needed to force the federal government to hand the documents back over. In a 68-page ruling, a U.S. district judge wrote that while the FBI seizure was certainly not perfect, the county did not prove its rights were disregarded or that it will suffer irreparable harm without the original records. The judge also noted the Justice Department has already provided copies of the documents back to the county. This comes after the FBI raided the warehouse back in January, seizing more than 600 boxes of 2020 election ballots, along with other records. The Justice Department says it's investigating what it describes as irregularities in how Fulton County handled the election. And Fulton County sued the government, arguing the seizure was improper and unconstitutional, and asked the federal judge to order those ballots returned. Ultimately, it was denied. And now the Fulton County Chairman, Rob Pitts, is responding to this ruling, saying, "I agree. The FBI warrant was defective, problematic, and troubling, but I strongly disagree with the denial of Fulton County's request, and we intend to pursue all available legal options." Now, Fulton County is also trying to block the Justice Department subpoena requesting the information of 2020 election workers. The county says the subpoena is too broad and also cites that they fear that the Justice Department will use that information to harass these workers. In the meantime, those documents taken in that seizure will remain in the hands of the Justice Department. Reporting in Fulton County, I'm Ariana Maniz for 11Alive.
New details in a crash involving high school students out of Coweta County. 6 of them, all 6 teens, juniors at Northgate High School in Noonan, and several still being treated at Grady Memorial Hospital in downtown Atlanta. A family member tells 11Alive's Cody Alcor and the teens were skipping class when that crash happened.
Something all of us have done as teenagers. Not saying that it's right, shouldn't have happened.
On Thursday morning,
They left the school without permission.
just after 10:30, Shelby Cochran and 5 classmates in a Honda Accord were rounding a curve on Vaughn Road when troopers say the driver lost control, ran off the road, and hit a utility pole. All 6 were either flown or taken by ambulance to Atlanta hospitals. Shelby's aunt, Mindy Palacios.
Very lucky, absolutely. And Shelby has said, I've said this, before, Shelby mentioned that her Bible was in the car with her in her book bag, and she feels like that is the reason why they all made it out of this accident alive.
As far as Shelby's injuries,
she has fractured ribs, a broken collarbone, fractures in her neck and her back and her sternum.
A long road ahead for the teenager who her aunt says learned a tough lesson this past week.
She knows what has happened was a huge mistake. She realizes, she feels like this was very much an eye-opening event for her.
Mindy hopes other young people will pay attention to this story and realize it could happen to anyone.
This is a lesson to everybody. I mean, this is all things that typical teenagers do. There is always, or could be always, consequences to your actions, and I just hope that that's the message.
This week, we marked the passing of media pioneer Ted Turner. He was one of the most influential figures in Atlanta's transformation into an international city. 11Alive's Doug Richards looks back at Turner's extraordinary impact on media, business, and Atlanta itself.
There are names tied to cities. Charles de Gaulle in Paris, Babe Ruth in New York, Adolph Coors in Denver, and Ted Turner in Atlanta. Immortals. Legends mean different things to different people, but here's what Ted Turner meant to Atlanta. He meant the Superstation, wrestling, CNN, Bernard Shaw, Fred and Nick, Tom Johnson. He brought us Braves baseball, a world championship, John Scherholz, Bobby Cox, Skip, Ernie, and Pete. Hawks basketball, Neek, Moses Malone. Thrashers hockey, Phillips Arena. The Turner Foundation, Jane Fonda, Bison Burgers. Turner Entertainment, Cartoon Network, Turner Classic Movies, Captain Planet, TNT. He began his career as an account executive with Turner Advertising Company and entered the television business in 1970 when he acquired the local independent UHF station Channel 17. In 1976, Turner purchased the Braves and launched TBS, originating the Superstation concept. He was off and running. As Braves owner, he once managed the team for a game. The Braves lost. Ted wouldn't lose much after that. Take the America's Cup. He skippered the yacht Courageous to victory. This was the late 1970s, and the America's Cup was a big deal. They were the underdogs, even playing the theme from Rocky every morning during the event. Ted Turner, an underdog, they swept the final over Australia 4-0. In 1980, Turner launched CNN, the world's first live 24-hour global news network.
This news network is going to make another option available, which hopefully will be one that's enlightening and informative as opposed to all the entertainment that we have at the present time. The key to making it work is to get the entire cable industry in the country to put it on. If that happens, it's a shoo-in success.
People snickered. 24-hour cable news? You're crazy. Imagine our lives without it. He created the Goodwill Games, showing Atlanta had indeed become an international city. Without that, does Atlanta ever host the 1996 Olympics? He also co-founded the Nuclear Threat Initiative with U.S. Senator Sam Nunn and funneled money to countless Atlanta charities and people not publicly known.
Seen him, we haven't had any even underground tests, but we haven't seen a mushroom cloud now in 50 years. And if we see one over New York or Washington or LA, you're talking about 10 million dead people in one flash of an instant. That's why we got to get rid of them before they get rid of us.
Ted Turner gave us an international identity. Atlanta became cool, never Hotlanta. When Mr. Turner attended Hawks and Braves games, an exciting, glamorous vibe entered the venue. The focus was him.
Come see the big league team of Little League Spirit, and hey, we're in Atlanta.
Driving a modest Toyota inside the stadium tunnel, honking his horn at reporters, and with a smile, get the bleep out of the way. Just like the sign on his desk, lead, follow, or get out of the way. His stadium spot read, "Don't even think of parking here." No one did. Whoa. Atlanta Fulton County Stadium caught fire in 1993. With Atlanta fire trucks rolling onto the infield, Mr. Turner tells Jeff Hollinger, "Oh yeah, we are playing tonight. the bats will catch fire, the offense will get hot, and we will win the division. Ted was right, of course. In 2002, Turner opened the first Ted's Montana Grill in Columbus, Ohio, with his partner, George McCarrow Jr., founder of the Longhorn Steakhouse chain. He was Time Magazine's 1991 Man of the Year, Broadcasting and Cable's Man of the Century in 1999, and one of Time's 100 Most Influential People in 2009. He's been given Lifetime Achievement Awards from both the Sports Emmys and the National Center for Civil and Human Rights. He was mostly gone from the city of Atlanta for the past 15 years, living a secluded life in the western wilderness. But forgotten? Of course not. Without Ted Turner, what is Atlanta today? He cast a long shadow over our city for years, and his influence will be felt for decades to come.
Anyway, thanks a lot for this great honor today, and we'll see you on opening night.
We have more news after this. You're watching 11Alive News This Week. A sheriff suspended for DUI, now facing new charges. Authorities just arrested him again behind the wheel. Hall County Sheriff Gerald Couch already suspended from office following a DUI arrest in February. 11Alive's Marissa Sarback spoke with his attorney.
Sheriff Couch was arrested while driving on Georgia 400 after a traffic stop by the Dawson County Sheriff's Office yesterday. We do have that new mugshot that just came into our newsroom. He's accused of failing to maintain a lane and violating the condition of his limited driving permit. The sheriff's attorney, Blake Poole, telling me the limitations on Couch's driving permit were not made clear by the Department of Driver Services. At one point, he says DDS told Sheriff Couch his license would remain valid until May 27th of this year. Another time, he says DDS told Sheriff Couch he needed a limited permit to drive. And just last week, he says DDS wrote that he was not required to have a limited permit at all. Poole also released this statement on behalf of the sheriff. Quote, "The sheriff was sober last night and has remained sober since his February arrest. He has complied fully with every condition imposed by the court system, including the random testing required as a condition of his bond, and has passed every test administered to him. He has continued to obey every regulation he has been clearly instructed to follow." We reached out to the Hall County Sheriff's Office for a comment, and they directed us back to his attorney. Reporting outside the Hall County Sheriff's Office, Marissa Sarback for 11Alive News.
Atlanta City Council's voted to create a new commission to study 404 Day and safety at Piedmont Park. To remember, this year's celebrations were overshadowed by tragedy when gunfire broke out on the other end of the park. 11Alive's Grace King spoke with council members and neighbors about what they'd like to see done.
When Nick Boxer reflects on 404 Day, chaos comes to mind.
The biggest concern with 404 Day was just such a crazy day, kind of out of control.
He and his Virginia Highland neighbors say the problem started with traffic
from the very first moment of the day
and escalated to violence,
to a deteriorating situation later in the day with a brawl, which eventually turned into a gun battle.
Now, City Council member Andrea Boone is proposing a new 404 Day commission, a group focused on identifying gaps and fixing them.
If gaps exist, we want to make sure that we fill them.
She says the focus would go beyond large permitted events.
We are not so concerned about the events that are permitted properly, but we are concerned about the events where folks are just having fun and do not have the proper security.
Atlanta police don't know who's responsible for the Piedmont Park gunfire last month or whether the shooters had any connection to the 404 Day event that had just finished.
I think they just need to be more proactive and thoughtful and come up with some, more clever solutions to these issues.
City leaders say that's exactly the goal.
We want to make sure that this is a fun time. We want to make sure that all of the community, all of the city is safe, and traffic is handled properly as well.
Councilwoman Boone expects to have these recommendations in the next 180 days, giving them plenty of time to plan for the next 404 Day. At City Hall, Grace King, 11Alive News.
The Georgia Supreme Court is sending a high-profile Metro Atlanta murder case back to a lower court. It comes after discovering legal findings included fake case citations generated by artificial intelligence. 11Alive investigator Savannah Levins is digging into this story.
This case involves Hannah Payne. She was convicted of murder in Clayton County after shooting and killing Kenneth Herring during a traffic dispute in 2019 and sentenced to life in prison. She's been asking for a new trial, claiming her original counsel was ineffective. A Superior Court judge denied that request, relying in part on legal filings that cited cases that don't even exist. Supreme Court justices flagged the mistake. The assistant DA assigned to the case, Deborah Leslie, admitting to using AI to generate arguments that she did not independently verify. The Supreme Court now ruling that may have tainted the judge's order denying Payne a new trial. So the case will now go back to that same trial court judge, who will now have to issue a new decision on the motion for a new trial, disregarding those inaccurate filings. I spoke with Andrew Fleischman, the attorney representing Payne through her appeal.
And it's a little disheartening because obviously if the trial court didn't read the cases in its own order, it didn't probably read what I filed, right? Like, in a murder case, I would really want you to read everything and think about it and give it serious consideration. And that's what I hope for from a judge, and I don't think that happened.
The ruling also suspends Deborah Leslie from being involved in any Supreme Court cases for 6 months and requires her to complete 12 hours of extra training on legal ethics and use of AI. I just checked, and Leslie is still listed as active in good standing with the Georgia Bar, meaning she can still practice law here. The trial court judge has 90 days now to issue an updated decision on Payne's motion for a new trial.
A major traffic headache is underway as we speak on I-285. A full closure of part of that interstate started Friday night. It runs through early Monday. 11Alive's traffic and transportation reporter Doug Turnbull posted this update on our 11Alive News app.
Hey, Doug Turnbull here in the 11Alive Traffic Impact Tracker, and fittingly, because 285 is going to be completely shut down from Cascade Road exit 7 to MLK exit 9 all weekend long. The first full closure of a freeway that Atlanta's had for multiple days since the 85 bridge fire in 2017. And this is a scheduled one. And what GDOT says is they need to fully replace the concrete slabs along a 15-mile stretch of 285, so they'll start in this 2-mile segment in southwest Atlanta. And drivers in the area are having to brace for it, but say it is necessary.
Most Atlanta natives be taking the street way. And by me being an Uber driver, yeah, I figure it out. Yeah, but it is going to be inconvenience. 285, the whole thing. Whole 285.
Whole thing.
Woo.
I'm glad you told me that because I did not know that. So I guess I do have to be prepared for that. But it's okay though, because it's process. It's a process. You got to do what you got to do to make the roads better for everybody.
Yeah, they got to slow down to go a little bit faster. Detours will be posted, diverting drivers from southbound onto MLK and from northbound on the Langford Parkway, Highway 166. It means a lot of extra freight traffic and just other traffic will be on the downtown connector and along the east side perimeter, I-285 in DeKalb County. So you're urged by the state to avoid driving in this stretch. And GDOT spokesperson Natalie Dale says this will be the first of numerous closures like this on that big stretch of 285 over the next 3 years. So we're going to get our first bite of the apple, if you will, this weekend. So plan accordingly, try to avoid the area if you can, and plan some patience. Thankfully, they will not have closures like this during the World Cup this summer.
We have more after this. You're watching 11Alive News This Week. In the trunk of just about anyone's car, you can find everything from a spare tire to maybe a spare set of clothes. But for one Atlanta man, you can find a sewing machine and everything you need to build a wig inside of his. 11Alive's Chase Howe has the story.
G-Wagon, more like a wig wagon.
So I can knock out probably like 6 or 7 wigs. Just depends on if I got clients to do or not.
Vontae Averett owns and operates Lace by Vontae. He makes custom wigs not just at his home, but also out of the trunk of his car. Think wigs on wheels.
So this is what happened. So I was actually with a client, and then I had to go out of town that day later on. So my mom was headed out of town, and I was like, hey, I got to do my mom's hair. So we was pressed for time, and I sort of was like, listen, I'm going to grab my sewing machine, you drive, and I'll make my wig.
And the rest is history. Averett says he's done pieces for celebrities like Candy Burris and Sexy Red, but he still makes his custom units accessible to everyone.
My wigs are very affordable. It just depends on what you want. If you want something short, the price will be a little cheaper. If you want something longer and more expensive and beautiful like some Candy or Monica will wear, then it'll be a little bit more expensive.
So how does it work? Easy. You order a unit, he pulls up, sews it all together, and in 15 to 20 minutes, you have a new wig.
If I can pull up on you having a bad day, but when I do your hair and I leave you and you feeling good, my job here is done.
Averett says he doesn't just stay in Atlanta, but goes all around the metro making sure everyone is looking their best while being laced by Vontae. Reporting, Chase Howell, 11Alive News.
You know, wedding photographers spend a lifetime capturing love, one moment at a time. But for Hannah and Corey, the camera went quiet after a serious crash. Now they're documenting a very different kind of story. 11Alive's Caitlin Ross reports.
Love has always been at the center of Hannah and Corey's work. The quiet moments, small glances, parts of a wedding day most people don't even notice.
It's really just given us an appreciation for life and how many different chapters we get to be a part of and the people that we get to love and serve.
Last October, their own love story changed on Georgia 400.
We were hit and our car ended up rolling and rotating and flipping multiple times.
I don't really remember much, but my left side's pretty messed up from it.
Corey was in a coma for 2 months. While Hannah was healing, she was also waiting for him to wake up. When he did, the road back was slow.
They get me to walk, and speech therapy was working on me talking and swallowing again and all that stuff.
Yeah, you had to relearn how to do a lot, right?
Yeah.
The days inside the hospital felt long and isolating.
When this first happened for me, I was kind of looking on TikTok and Instagram, just trying to find other people who've been through something like this.
So Hannah picked up her camera again, not for weddings, for this.
The beauty and I think the things that matter the most are sometimes just not the prettiest.
The in-between moments, the ones that show just how far he's come.
I just want to be happy to go through life with her.
Through it all, Hannah says Corey still sees the world in a way that feels steady and kind.
He's my best friend and he sees the world and life so beautifully, and he just really brings an element to photography that is just so sweet.
Frame by frame, they are documenting what love looks like.
This week, thousands of students are donning the caps and the gowns graduating from college, but for some who still have a ways to go before graduation, Georgia State University is offering students some big savings through its online textbook program. 11Alive's Joe Ripley explains how it works.
At Georgia State University, fourth-year computer information system student Michael Chiwatalu is trying to stand out among 55,000 students.
I'm CIS, so maybe like some with that, or music really though. I make music, so I want to do some with music.
Chiwatalu's noticed costs are on the rise.
If you're just paying straight out of pocket, it can be crazy sometimes.
From food to housing, even his textbooks.
You know, you got bills to pay and stuff. You're not trying to use like $100 or something like that for a textbook just for a couple months.
Kim Manturek with GSU says the Panther Book Access program gives students access to their course textbooks online on the very first day of class.
It's a great program because it saves students having to go to the bookstore, but more importantly, it saves them money. We work with publishers to reduce the cost of their textbooks by 40 to 60%.
Georgia State piloted the program last fall and saved students in about 5 classes over $500,000.
We started with math and economics classes. Those are courses that have really expensive textbooks, but as of this fall semester, it will be available in all our departments across the entire university.
Manturek says students could potentially save over $1,000 over their college stay if every course was in Panther Book Access.
Students are able to pay their reduced textbook costs directly through their financial aid, so we're reducing the amount of loans that they have to take.
Adding convenience and saving money for students like Michael Chiwatalu.
I'll definitely use those myself because I would need them.
An effort to tackle Atlanta's affordability crisis is underway. It is powered by volunteers and a project tied to the legacy of former President Jimmy Carter and First Lady Rosalind Carter. 11Alive's Danielle Nottingham takes us to Southwest Atlanta, where they are building dozens of homes.
This is the first time this project has returned to this area since 1988. Habitat for Humanity is celebrating its 50th anniversary and felt like this was the perfect location to celebrate that milestone. The sound of hammers and hope are continuing a legacy in Atlanta's Sylvan Hills neighborhood.
I was with Mom and Dad quite a lot, and I watched them work in the last 5 years. When they came, I actually helped both of them a good bit, but they would have been real excited to be able to be with people that have less than us.
This week, volunteers with Habitat for Humanity are teaming up with the Carter Work Project, inspired by former President Jimmy Carter and former First Lady Rosalind Carter, to expand affordable housing in the city.
This will be an on-ramp for them to help create an Atlanta where everybody has a decent place to live.
By the end of the week, the 40th Carter Work Project will complete 24 homes on 8 acres that will be called Langston Park. The community has plans to expand in the future, and the new homeowners' mortgages will be based on their income. With current interest rates hovering in the 6 to 7% range, homeownership is out of reach for many Atlantans. Chip Carter and his daughter Margaret say they are more than happy to lend their support.
My grandfather raised me to believe that it takes a village, and we need more of that in America. We all kind of got a little too separate, right?
When it's all said and done, 64 new homes will be in this community. They'll be working here on this site through this Friday. In Southwest Atlanta, Danielle Nottingham, 11Alive News.
Hey, thanks for watching 11Alive News this week. I'm Dan Kennedy. More news on the way next.